Hello.
Hello, Alex. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Let's start the interview with a traditional acknowledgement of country. Um, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we individually meet and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Can you tell me whose land you're currently sitting on?
We're on Wurundjeri country and also Bunurong country as well out here in West Footscray at the moment.
Fantastic. So let's talk about opening doors. Can you describe the program for me?
So Opening Doors is a free 6-month community leadership program focusing on Melbourne's inner east, so Monash, Boroondara, Whitehorse and Manningham. And the focus is on working with really passionate, like-minded community leaders who want to promote social inclusion and make a difference in the lives of people who might be experiencing loneliness or social isolation or other barriers to connecting with their community as well.
That's an interesting space to be working in at this time. What excites and motivates you about your role?
So many things, and you're right, it is a very interesting space at the moment, and arguably, the work of fostering those connections and trying to reduce loneliness, I think a lot of us have been reflecting during these times of COVID, probably more important than ever. In terms of what excites me about the role, honestly, I think it's just the sheer diversity of leaders we get to work with. You know, we've had people as young as 19 do the program. I think our eldest graduate was 87 at the time. We've got leaders in their 90s still working incredibly hard in their communities, but not just diversity of age, but diversity of culture, diversity of lived experience, of background. And I think one of the things I love most is when you bring leaders together from such diverse backgrounds. It's not just what they learn through the program, but what they learn from each other. And all of those kind of cross-shared learnings that happen. I just find that endlessly exciting.
Fantastic. So how will you be delivering the program this year? Are you adapting?
We are. I think adaptation has been the word of the year for us so far. I think one of the challenges for us early on was that, and I think we all went through this a bit, we all had our different, I don't know what it was like for you guys at PCP, but I feel like we all had these different moments of realizing what was actually happening. I know for me, for a little while, every night you're seeing the COVID news on ABC, and there was a little bit of that disbelief of, is this really this serious? And then we all had that moment, we go, well, yeah, it is this serious. And so for us, I think there was definitely a bit of a gestation period of looking at, in those early days, we didn't really know how long the restrictions were going to last for. We didn't know how all-encompassing those restrictions would be. And I think even just a month or two on, we've got a much clearer picture now of what's the rest of this year going to look like, and what is, we're hearing the term now, a lot of talk about recovery. What does a COVID-safe sort of society look like? So we've been trying to balance that with recognizing that, as I said earlier, the need for this work is probably more important than ever. So we've been doing two things. We've been working really closely with our alumni over the past couple of months. We've been having multiple alumni Zoom chats a week. Some have been just social and about connection, and others have been questions for leadership. So, we had a great chat last week with the question, what advice would I give to my pre-COVID self? And lots of great reflections on this kind of growing sense, at least amongst our leaders, that, returning to normal shouldn't necessarily be our default kind of pathway, particularly if maybe normal wasn't working that well in a lot of ways to begin with. To the program this year, we very much hope to have an announcement about that soon. And what it's looking like is that we will start the 2020 program as an online model. So through the Zooms, and then really just watching to see how those restrictions change. And probably at some point that online model will move to us being able to come together again. Obviously the challenge is we don't know when that will be.
Yeah, so you usually start your program with a retreat that everybody goes to be together. How are you going to make that work?
It's probably one of our biggest, yeah, it's probably one of our biggest challenges because if you talk to any of the participants who've been through the program, that opening 3-day retreat is often one of their fondest memories. And so much in those first 3 days about not just setting the scene for the program and exploring questions of leadership and emotional health and our impact as leaders, but it's obviously a lot about the group coming together and bonding and getting to know each other and building those relationships. So we've been working closely with our amazing partners at Global Leadership Foundation, who deliver the retreat for us every year, and really working through how can we take a rather intensive 3 days and bring it into an online space where we can keep the essence of the learnings and the connection, but also with the recognition that you can't have people sitting in front of their computer on Zoom for 7 hours straight. So a lot's going to need to change around the length of the sessions and all of that. Yeah.
1 hour on Zoom is exhausting.
Right? Zoom fatigue. It's a real thing
It's
that
a
a
real
lot of people
thing.
are talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So in order for us not to get Zoom fatigue, I'm going to move on to the next question. How have the Opening Doors graduates been continuing their work with communities during this time?
I have found them so endlessly inspiring. I feel like, much like with us, I think there was a sort of a recalibration period, maybe a few weeks in there where everyone was kind of watching and waiting and listening and trying to get an understanding of what this all meant. And since then, the way they've adapted has just been incredible. You know, we've had people doing letterbox drops in their local communities and setting up WhatsApps for their local streets to keep their neighbours connected and maybe look out for people who are more isolated. We've had graduates who have taken the totality of their work and brought it into the online space. So some people listening might be familiar with our graduates' work with Transfamily Victoria. That's gone online now. The Different Journeys project in supporting families and young people with autism, that's all gone online. And beyond, I think the thing that really excites me, rather than just taking it online and continuing, there's been so much creativity and innovation. And we've almost talked about there's a bit of a culture of we've all got permission to fail at the moment. It's also unprecedented. You can try new stuff, and if it doesn't work out, that's cool, because we're all kind of going on that learning journey together, I think. So it's been, yeah, really inspiring.
Fantastic. How can IEPCP partners get involved in your work if they're interested?
So many different ways. So first of all, we see the work that our leaders at Opening Doors do as complementing and feeding back into the work of PCP partners. Some of our most important partners are also PCP partners. So PCP has been amazing for us. We've also got Access Health, Carrington Health, us obviously at Link Health and Community as well, and then our local government partners. So in addition to our graduates kind of doing work that aligns with the priorities of these organisations, there's a real opportunity for these organisations to attend Opening Doors sessions, to come and talk about their services, to link their services into the work of our Opening Doors graduates. So I've already seen some really great partnerships form between, you know, a graduate who might be working at a neighbourhood house, running a project, then can feed back into community health and vice versa. So yeah, there's a myriad of different ways. And one of the exciting things we're doing at the moment is actually going through a bit of a, how to put it, just an overall review of how we operate with Opening Doors, specifically in terms of what that partnership and governance model look like. So we'll probably have more to say on that soon, but yeah, I think watch this space, because we want to be doing a lot more with that in the coming months.
Fantastic, exciting stuff.
It is. It is.
Do you have any new reflections on the nature of isolation for the communities that you're working with now that we've all been isolated in some way over the last 2 months?
there's a couple of things that come to mind. I think, and this has been reflected on quite a bit, I think, at least from what I've read online, is that it has, to an extent, shone a light on existing, what's the best way to put it? Disparities, I suppose. So, you know, I'm really conscious that being able to reflect on this time in isolation and say, I've felt more grounded, it's given me the opportunity to reflect, that comes with an immense privilege that not many of us have. And that goes to, you know, socioeconomic status, it goes to the huge amount of job insecurity and job losses, I think, that we've seen during this time as well. So while for some of us there may have been some upsides to this, I think what it's really shone a light on for me is inequality, inequity. And those fault lines, I think, have emerged really, really strongly. So that's where that question for me of sorry, I've just got a plane going overhead.
That is.
Not necessarily about just diving back in, yes, normal, we want normal back, we want to be back to normal, because for a lot of the leaders we're talking to, normal's been a bit broken for a while anyway. So how can we bring change with us as we move forward, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. What strategies have you found that have helped your working from home? You've obviously got a lovely backyard with some trees. Aren't we all grateful for that?
Absolutely. My new workmate, my little pooch, Gilly, has been excellent encouragement. So I've found a little routine where, rather than just doing back-to-back Zoom calls, as we've said, which can get quite fatiguing, try and schedule little 15-minute breaks between meetings, go for a walk. Gilly knows when one of my meetings is over because she gets a pat and a play. I think one of the most important things for me has been just making time for exercise and physical activity. Like, I think first couple of weeks I was in this, there were a couple of days where I just didn't get out. I just felt exhausted, and even just going for a good half an hour walk, I felt alive again. So I think, yeah, a big learning for me is when we're going into the office and going about our usual business, all those kind of incidental bits of exercise that we get, even just going up the stairs or whatever, we don't have those. So you've got to be, I've learned to be really mindful about when maybe I'm fitting that stuff in.
Fantastic. Me too.
Mm.
What are you looking forward to doing when our time of isolation is over?
Wow. I think seeing people again, real in the flesh people. On a personal level, I also just really miss, like, living in West Footscray, and also for those who live in the inner east, you know, the food culture and the restaurants are just unbelievable. So I really, really miss that. I miss going out for a meal. I miss seeing friends in the flesh. I'm looking forward to getting back to that. But I think there's some things that I've learned during this time that I'd hopefully be able to take with me too, particularly around being a bit more mindful and a bit more grounded in life. And one of the things we've talked about with our leaders is, it's not that we'll lose those learnings overnight, but as things gradually go back to normal, we might also gradually slip back into those old ways of being. So how do we hold on to that, I guess?
Yeah. And what's something you're secretly enjoying about this time of isolation?
I get to go to meetings in track pants. That's great. I don't want to, I mean, I will have to, you know, because obviously there's certain laws and social standards that we need to adhere to, but I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss, and I think the other thing I'm going to miss as well is there's been so much reflection on, you know, the world's kind of healing a bit at the moment. We're not driving, we're not taking unnecessary flights. We're hopefully consuming a little bit less. I saw in the news last night, global carbon emissions have reduced by 17%
Wow.
over this quarter. And I just think it's going to be a real shame to have maybe had a glimmer into what could be and then to lose it. So yeah, I'll miss that, I think.
Yeah, it's good to hang on to some of the positives around this. See if we can bring that into our next lives.
I think that's going to be the challenge. And I think, you know, in terms of opening doors this year, I think there probably will be some new content in the program around, you know, leadership learnings in the time of COVID, and what can we take from all of this, and what does it mean for us? Yeah, so I think there's some great learnings to be had there if we can hang on to them.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your at-home interview, Alex. I've enjoyed doing this over Zoom. You're someone who's always been able to challenge me to do new things, so thanks very much.
It's been a wonderful virtual coffee with. Thank you so much.